Good evening. Welcome to the undergraduate webinar series, an interactive online platform connecting high school students to the Ashoka community. In this series, we will cover all topics related to Ashoka's undergraduate program. Our esteemed faculty and academic counselors will guide students in understanding the various aspects of the university, including academics, student life, admissions, careers, and other topics. I am Anna Preeti, an undergraduate student at Ashoka, pursuing a major in computer science and mathematics. Thank you for joining us for today's session, Interdisciplinary Sciences at Ashoka University. Sciences have always been a fundamental part of society, but there has never been a time where an interdisciplinary understanding of STEM has been more important. Amidst this global pandemic, scientists are combining biology, chemistry, mathematics, and computer science to fight COVID-19, while models borrowed from physics and mathematics are being adopted in finance. Traditionally, we have viewed various STEM fields as separate from each other. While this compartmentalization makes sense for research purposes, Professor Shashidhara asks if dividing science into various disciplines a necessity to teach sciences in schools and colleges. Feel free to post any questions that you may have in the Q&A box. We will be taking them up at the end of the session. We have with us today Professor S Shashidhara, a distinguished professor of biology at Ashoka University. He's currently from IISSR Pune. He specializes in genetics, molecular biology, and evolutionary biology. Professor Shashidhara has served in the past as the Vice President of Indian National Science Academy and the Secretary General of the International Union of Biological Sciences. He is currently the President of IUBS and the first Indian to be elected in its 100 years of glorious history. He has represented India in several delegations and international platforms. He's steering an international project on climate change education. It's an honor to have you here with us, Professor. Over to you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you very much for this kind introduction and this, so good afternoon to all of you and welcome to this webinar on interdisciplinary sciences in Ashoka. And in general, I will also talk about in the context of the COVID, what interdisciplinarity means, and in the post-COVID world, how you can actually build your career, which is for the future, right? So Anna is one of our bright students who is, majoring in computer science. And at the same time, computer science is one which actually connects multiple departments, including social sciences and humanities. For example, economics, political science, everywhere you need to use computer science these days. It's not just about data science, it's actually developing new, AI, ML or blockchain, related technology for data analysis of other disciplines. So that way, I think data science, mathematics, these are the ones which are truly interdisciplinary because they provide the tools, and those people who master those tools are the ones who will be better off in becoming interdisciplinary scientists or interdisciplinary professionals. Not necessarily everybody need to go to academic science program, but one can take up any profession of their choice. But if you have mathematics, statistics, data science in your kitty of skills, I think you will be truly interdisciplinary and much more effective in implementing a variety of different types of schemes. Okay, let me share my slides. So what I'll do is maybe about 10 minutes or so, I'll give you a sort of brief overview of what we are doing in Ashoka. And as we stand in 2020, and whatever I'm going to say is how we planned the sciences in Ashoka before the COVID-19, and how we are sort of coping with the situation as of now, and how we are opening up our new educational modules because of the lockdown associated with COVID-19, and then what would be the world like post-COVID, and then how Ashoka can sort of reorient its educational and the training components to align our students to the future. And the second or a third part is in the context of a new education policy that has been proposed for India, take the Indian education system forward for the next few decades. Because usually education policies are, unraveled once in 30 years or so. our last education policy was in 1986, and now we are in 2020. So in that context, in how Ashoka is aligned with the new education policy and how your education in interdisciplinary sciences particularly will take forward and then open up new career pathways. Okay. So to start with, Ashoka is a liberal arts research university, right? So one is, when you say liberal arts, it's not about arts and sciences the way people look at arts. Like in Indian context, arts means basically bachelors of arts means usually it's social science, commerce, economics, humanities like literature studies, poetry, whatever it is. This is called arts. But liberal arts in education terminology means it's
Professor, so sorry to interject. The voice is a little low, so we might have to speak up a little.
Sure. Maybe let me adjust my microphone a little bit. Give me a sec.
Sure.
Let me. Is this better? Vikram?
Yes, it is.
Okay, I increased the strength of the microphone. Okay, good. Sorry for the interruption. So the art basically is the word that is used for the creative endeavors, right? So any creative endeavors require sort of open-mindedness, right? So you need to be open to anything that comes to you in front of your sensory systems, and then you need to analyze what you're actually seeing, what you're hearing, and then trying to sort of come out with your own creative understanding of the world, and then trying to sort of interact with the world. So in the context of liberal arts, basically you are given complete freedom to open up your mind into, both to the natural world as well as to the human world, right? Natural world is basically in the conventional, what you call as physics, chemistry, biology, and so forth, or earth science. When it comes to human world, anything that is created by the cause of the human cultural revolution, like economics, social science, political science, right? And performing arts, literature studies, and so forth, languages and all. So Ashoka Liberal Arts, foundation courses basically allows every student to open up their mind towards better understanding, more scientific understanding of both the natural world as well as the human world. And then depending on their interest, they can choose the major of their choice, right? And with, of course, a little bit of prior, experience and prior, exposure may be required. For example, you may have to take physics major, means you'll have some understanding of physics or mathematics from your school days. Or for those who want to pursue, any other branches, other than the physics, actually there are really no major prerequisites. You can actually walk into any part of discipline and then take that as a major, as long as you are interested and you think you are actually capable of pursuing that as a major discipline. And it is a research university, means all faculty do research, and it's not just about faculty doing research and then coming to the classroom to do teaching. The research university truly means undergraduate students doing research. That means undergraduate students not only they do learn from in the classroom from the researchers who are their faculty. The undergraduate students also do research. They do research as part of the coursework, or they do research as part of an extracurricular activity, and thereby they learn much more through what is called an experiential learning. So Ashoka's model of education is liberal arts research university model, right? Now, coming to sciences, I'll just give you, 2 minutes introduction to sciences. All of you know what is science, and many of you are interested in sciences. That's why you are in this webinar. It is the pursuit of knowledge. It doesn't have to be anything about the natural world. It's not like understanding the physical world, like planets or stars or Earth or the sand, or the plant and animals. It is the pursuit of any knowledge that is beyond our sensory perception, right? That means what you hear, what you see for yourself may not be true. That's your hypothesis. And then you want to verify what could be the truth, right? And you need to pursue in a particular way, because whatever you are seeing, whatever you are hearing, what comes to your sensory perception, if it is not true, you need something beyond your own perception. So as you can make out, by definition, scientific pursuit has to be unbiased and objective, because it has to be beyond our own sensory perception. For example, the classical example, all of you know, there's the earth moving around the sun. Every day, all of us, 7 billion people on earth, or all the people ever lived on earth, keep seeing the same thing: sun rising from the east and setting in the west, right? But the reality is, it is the earth which is moving around the sun, right? Although our sensory perception is different, the reality is something, is earth moving around the sun, and that has been accepted as scientific fact. How was this possible? It's because of the pursuit of knowledge, or pursuit of this particular piece of knowledge, in a very unbiased and objective way, irrespective of what people are seeing and what people are talking about, right? And that is the essence of science. So as you can make out, the scientific methods, by definition, is pursuing knowledge in an unbiased and an objective way. If it's unbiased, objective way, you can look at political science, COVID-19 pandemic, you can talk about economics, you can talk about agriculture, you can look at every aspect of the knowledge. As long as you are not biased by your own perception, you are perfectly all right to pursue science, right? That means you should not come with any kind of a prejudice. Okay, this is how it is, the world is, or whether human world or the natural world, and whatever I say is the correct one, right? If you come with that kind of a biasness, you cannot do science. What you have, when you want to do science, you have to have an open mind. And our education model is based on this essentiality of the science. That is, you need to understand the world beyond your own personal sensory perception, right? Irrespective of how good your sensory perception. You say I have a best vision, best auditory, capabilities. You can smell really well. Irrespective of how well your sensory organs are, you still see a world which is limited to your own perception, right? If you want to see something beyond that, we need a particular method of understanding the knowledge, and that's what called scientific methods. So our educational model is scientific inquiry, and how we can actually connect the science and other domains of human creativity and critical thinking. This is what we give you as part of the foundation courses. And then we start taking you to the very different domains of science as they have been discovered, but we don't introduce you to as sort of domains and are islands independent of each other. For example, what is something which is common across all sciences is the principles of physics, right? Which basically connects the entire natural world, both across the scale and the complexity. And then we are going to introduce you to chemistry, biology, and other human worlds like economics and social science and all. But again, at the same time, not as independent disciplines, but as a continuum of the original physical world, which is what originated, like, as you all know about the Big Bang, and then, what happened when the earth was born, and what happened to the earth, how the life evolved over earth, and how human evolved and human societies evolved, and the culture starts spreading, and very different types of nations were born, and the cultures were born, and this continuous dynamics of the whole system. And then all these things are also interpreted in a mathematical language. So mathematics is taught as a language that connects to all these disciplines. At the same time, mathematics is also used as an abstract method of how we understand our surrounding. Like, for example, topology, I'm sure many of you have heard about, is a mathematical way of understanding our surroundings. Obviously, our pedagogy has to align with what we want to teach and what should be the educational outcomes or learning outcomes of our students. When you come in with a lot of interest, open-mindedness, and then when you want to walk out of Ashoka, you go with certain kinds of skills. What are those skills we want you to learn is scientific understanding of the facts, or at least not all facts you can remember and then go with that one like earlier, college days. What we want you to learn is the self-learning ability, analytical thinking, and the creative, thinking abilities. And for that, for you to gain those learning outcomes, our pedagogy is, is sort of designed accordingly, right? And students are also exposed to the frontiers of science, because whatever you cover in the classroom or through your research or with the help of faculty, however good they are, they're still limited. The world is too large. There are so many things happening in the world. So you want to also get an exposure to what else is happening, outside Ashoka world, through seminars, symposia, national, international conferences. Of course, now because of the pandemic, everything is online like this webinar. But generally, we used to have lots of seminars, symposia, and international conferences on campus. Now we are continuing them, but most of them are online. But they're very specific to Ashoka students, so they can interact very closely with all these world leaders. Now, our faculty, obviously you cannot give a very good education unless you have very good faculty and very good students, right? Now, students are admitted through an open method. We don't have so much of competition the way IITs or other types of through a very competitive examination. Students are identified based on interest, based on creativity, and not based on their marks and certain examinations. How they have cracked an examination, if you want to use the word, like what IIT JEE is all for, right? So students are identified based on certain kinds of inherent talent they have. And then the faculty are really truly represent best in their field. They have innovation in their teaching, and they have basically, our faculty cover the entire spectrum of scientific methods. It could be experimental, computational, mathematical, or theoretical research. And they're typically, most of them are interdisciplinary researchers. They can actually talk to people of other disciplines very closely. For example, modern biology is trying to understand the biochemical basis of life, right? For example, if you're talking about COVID vaccine or a drug against COVID, they're all chemical entities. Although a vaccine is a protein, like an antibody, right? An antigen. That antigen is nothing but a protein of the virus, right? But protein, finally, it's a chemical entity. It's a polymer of amino acids, right? So unless you understand the chemistry of those amino acids and the peptides and the proteins at very different scales of size, or a drug as a chemical entity and how it interacts with the biological system, you will not get a complete picture of how to develop a drug, addressing the COVID pandemic. And unless you combine chemistry and biology, you can't get complete understanding of biological systems. Biological system, as you see from outside, is only very superficial understanding of biology. When you go inside the both cellular and the chemical base of life, you need much more, interdisciplinarity. And Ashoka faculty some of them are, well recognized in the country as well as outside the world. And there are some examples of Ashoka faculty coming from very different backgrounds, as well as accomplishment, having worked elsewhere. There are people who are very young. For example, Debayan Gupta, who was a faculty in MIT, but he's still very young. He's one of the very young faculty in Ashoka. He's just 32-year-old, having done PhD and worked in MIT in US. And there are also some senior people like oldies like us, like me rather, and who have worked elsewhere and then coming to Ashoka to build the whole system. Shivani and Gautam and Munmun and Maya Saran, they're all very, very accomplished researchers as well as faculty in Ashoka. Just representative coming of showing faculty of different disciplines. Now, as I told you, it's a research integrated curriculum. Our curriculum, all of you know something about syllabus. And I don't know how many of you students understand what a curriculum is, right? So for example, your 11th standard or 12th standard physics textbook or a biology textbook you open, what you see is a syllabus, right? But a curriculum is not restricted to one particular year. Curriculum is for the entire year. For example, Ashoka degree program is typically for 4 years. 3 years is for first degree, and then the 4th year is what you call an ASP or an advanced science program, studies program. And hopefully with the new education policy, when the new 4-year degree program will be introduced next year, then it will be completely integrated as one 4-year degree program, right? And how you travel from, once you are admitted to Ashoka and then you come out of Ashoka after 4 years, the entire structure is basically curriculum. And individual courses will have syllabi, right? And courses have syllabus. Now, in the curriculum has to be well defined so that a student, depending on what they're interested in, what kind of learning outcome they would be interested in, depending on what career path they take, the curriculum should be able to offer that, right? Not just based on one particular course, but the whole degree as a whole. And that's how we have defined our curriculum. And I'm not going to get into the details of this. You must have seen what kind of courses we have. And there's a lot of emphasis for interdisciplinary courses is simply because the future of, any profession, whether it is in, academia or in industry or corporate or even administration, you need to have some interdisciplinary understanding of the world. And when you look at individual courses, we have some unique lab courses. We have, fourth year students will take actually PhD level courses, so that you actually will take you on a fast track to a more advanced one without, compromising on fundamental understanding. Hello, Vikram, am I back?
Yes, Professor.
Sorry, for some reason I lost my connection. I don't know how much for how long was I away from the?
Hardly less than a minute, Professor. You're back.
Okay, so hopefully, I keep saying something and then I realize that I'm not.
No, it was only about 30 to 40 seconds.
Okay, fine, thanks. Okay, so what I was trying in the last 30, 40 seconds is all students, depending on their interest, depending on their level of competence in getting into more quantitative learning, will be introduced to computer science and the data science and the mathematics. For example, if those who want to pursue a little bit more and they can get into more of computer science and data science and mathematical methods related to physics, chemistry, or biology, or those who want to get a more qualitative understanding of the very different disciplines, you will have lesser, data science related courses. Now, what are the, other than the learning outcomes, their learning outcomes is dependent on what you want to do after your degree. Some people actually come very determined. Okay, I want to become a physicist or a chemist or a biologist, or I want to become an IAS officer, an IPS officer, or I want to have my own company, or I want to get into a drug industry, or I want to do an NGO social service and helping, mitigating the climate change or environmental degradation, or, social entrepreneurship. And, each one of you may come with your own ambition. Some of you may be completely open and start, deciding what you want to do after your degree while you're going through Ashoka experience, right? In fact, most students actually, change their initial thinking of what they want to become after going through an Ashoka experience, because it opens up your mind completely into almost all aspects of, career paths, right? So in that context, you can actually pursue, higher education beyond, undergraduate program in masters and PhD and get into academia or industry R&D. Basically, you can be part of a research and development program, or you can get into an industry where you can be a technocrat, or you can do, those who are interested in a bit of law and such kind of things, you can be part of intellectual property and law, because, science generally produces the kind of knowledge, and some parts of that knowledge can be patented. And how to, patent, or how to protect, how to, do technology transfer, how to evaluate technology. You have to evaluate technology if you want to sell to someone, right? So we need, experts to do that, right? Or you can start your own entrepreneurship or startup, or you can get into science policy related to sustainable development, or science writing and communication, and or get into other type of corporate jobs. And for all of these things, we'll basically provide sufficient training, exposure, and we have an entrepreneurship cell. We have a cell to train people how to use philanthropic funds to deliver to the society. Or we also have a creative writing cell, as well as a very good popular media cell. And you can also get into both creative writing and using the television and the social media approaches to communicate, very nicely the facts and values of the knowledge that you know of, right? Rather than, somehow mitigating this fake news problem. So some of the research areas our faculty are pursuing, very really the cutting edge, like for example, synthetic biology, data science, biology, biodiversity, ecology. In ecology, basically, some of them are also pursuing what's known as chemical ecology, looking at the chemistry of ecological interactions. For example, a, 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 a flower attracts a honeybee. What kind of attraction it is? For example, if it is smell, what kind of chemicals that are produced by this one and how it attracts one, or it is the flower color, or is, and then what kind of nectar, what's the chemistry of the nectar, which basically makes the honeybees to keep coming back to the same flowers and again. And also there are, honeybees which are what are known as generalists. That means they can, pollinate a variety of different types of plants. There are honeybees which are species specific. They don't go to other flowers, right? How do they know which, species of plants to visit? So some of these things you also need to understand at the chemical level. Evolution is, of course, is something central to all our biology teaching. And in terms of physics, we have, particle physics to, astronomy, astrophysics are some of the very classical ones anyway we'll teach, but very interesting new areas of physics, like, physics of biological systems, right? Understanding the complexity of the biological system with the help of physics. Quantum field theory and its application. All of you must have heard about string theory, a newer understanding of what is gravity, and all those things come in the quantum field theory, right? Then understanding the properties of the soft matter. For example, the cell is a soft matter, right? There are many artificial ones are also soft matters. How to understand it? For example, you use your, LED screens, right? What is the physics behind this? And this complex system can be anything. For example, a pandemic is a complex system. For example, how, virus somewhere it evolved and became a pathogen to human, how it started spreading is simply because of the human complex way of living. If it happened 2000 years ago, many such viruses would have actually been limited to a smaller group of people and would have actually eliminated from the nature without any much problem. But now it is spreading, and it is, thousands and thousands of people are infected every day, and many hundreds of people are dying every day, is because of the complex world that we are living in. How to understand the pandemic, you cannot understand only based on the biology of the virus. You also need to understand the human society, the complexity of the society. So this kind of study requires certain different methods of physics, and that's what the complex system physics, what they call. Chemistry also has, synthetic biology is a new area of chemistry, basically biomimicry, what they call. The molecular biology is all basically chemistry, and material science, all kinds of new materials you need, environmental friendly energy, storage devices or energy capture devices, like, or carbon dioxide, capture device, are all part of the material science. And of course, pharmaceutical science, the drug industry. And there are so many new areas of, areas we are going to have, because Ashoka is, faculty are still growing, and we're going to grow to 3 or 4-fold in the next 5 years. And you're going to have a large number of very exciting new areas of sciences in Ashoka very soon. And some of the work that Ashoka faculty are doing will have impact on environment related, carbon sequestration, and better environment for the future, affordable drugs, and also in agriculture sector, renewable energy, biofuels, and catalysis, and so forth. And Ashoka has just initiated a new school for biological sciences, and it's going to sort of work both on education as well as in the modern areas of biology, like synthetic biology. And it has some really formidable list of advisors who are driving this program, chaired by Professor Venki Ramakrishnan, who is the president of Royal Society as the Nobel laureate, and also another Nobel laureate, Jacques Szostak, who works on origin of life, and then many other accomplished scientists are the ones who are advising us in promoting biology in Ashoka. Similarly, we have some very good advisors for computer science, for physics, for chemistry, mathematics, and in other areas of Ashoka. these are some of the research facilities. We have some very good labs, although, because of this pandemic, it's only PhD students are currently using, and undergraduate students are away and work learning from home. But very soon, when it opens up, they will all have, very high quality labs waiting for them to do experiments and learn by doing experiments. And we are also building some new science programs, and this is the new science building that's coming up in Ashoka. It will have biology, physics, chemistry, and computer science all will be integrated in one building. So coming to quickly, in the context of COVID, right? Now, Ashoka's response to COVID has been very swift and effective. In fact, the Haryana government, imposed a lockdown in 16th or 14th of, I think, March, and the 17th of March, Ashoka seamlessly went on online teaching. Then with minimal impact on learning outcomes to our students, and faculty were trained to do online teaching. And faculty also doing a lot of research. They have, because of their quality of the work they were doing, and they're also their, interdisciplinarity, it was easier for them to laterally move towards COVID-19 research, because no one was working on COVID-19, because there was nothing like COVID-19 before this, right? Pandemic. So, and they actually very quickly, started working on COVID-19 and made an impact, and they are recognized across the country. In fact, if you go to this site on our website, this page on our website, you will see more about what kind of work we do on COVID-19 Ashoka. So coming to, for students, for you to decide, will there be a difference between pre-COVID and post-COVID world, particularly for science students? And I'm going to say that there will be some difference, but there will not be so much difference also. For example, even prior to COVID-19, science was never practiced in isolation. It was always, through cooperation, sharing, peer review, external validation. These are some of the methods of science, which is what helps science to spread in real time, right? Particularly because of the internet. So even pre-COVID world also, for example, whether in industry or in academia, or you want to start a new policy for the government, or as an advisor to the government, or you're let's say secretary, an IAS officer, you had access to scientific information of the latest, and people are always collaborating and open-mindedness and putting out their, scientific knowledge outside very freely, right? And that's actually what helped to mitigate the COVID-19 problem to large extent. Compared to what earlier days a pandemic would have caused the devastating, damage to the lives of people, even though it has caused this time too, but it is much, much less what would have happened 100 years ago, is simply because, again, people, worked collaboratively and exchanged information in real time. And they worked on the, very different methods of testing and isolating, infected people and quarantining them, and also, developing new drugs and then vaccines. For example, the 150 vaccine, projects are going on, and very soon there will be some new vaccine, coming up and protecting all of us from this pandemic. And Ashoka faculty also have contributed to epidemiology in designing some, ICU wards, developing some diagnostic kits, assessing the impact of diverse socioeconomic groups, and dissemination of correct information, which is one of the most important things in the current pandemic, is also that spread of rumors and fake news, which, to avoid that, we also had to spread the correct information. The post-COVID world, there will be more emphasis on basic science, because people have realized that science need to be given more importance to address these kind of problems. Not only these kind of diseases, also, and climate change and environment related problems and sustainable development, you need science. So there will be more emphasis on research in basic sciences. Also, all scientists and students to be trained to laterally shift to new areas. For example, you cannot say that, oh, I'm only an astrophysicist, I can't do anything if there is a COVID. But everybody has to, somehow use their skills, if not the knowledge, domain-specific knowledge, at least the skills to, for example, we have a close friend of mine who's the director of Inter-University Astronomy and Astrophysics in Pune. He is working on COVID. He developed an app for contact tracing, right? Internationalization of science, it's going to increase irrespective of, politically how people are fighting with each other between different countries, but science internationalization is going to increase. So we also need more and more, science communicators to come for this, right? So in a way, Ashoka's liberal arts program and its importance to understanding the global scenario, and also is training to work in teams and cooperation, collaboration, and its liberal arts, and liberal values education is going to sort of help you adapt to the post-COVID world very easily. And I'm sure many of you have heard in the newspaper about the new education policy. And new education policy promotes liberal arts program, which Ashoka has already started. Interdisciplinarity and multidisciplinarity, again, Ashoka is already ahead of others. 21st century learning outcomes. Learning outcome is mostly about your ability to adapt to changing conditions. That's where Ashoka is already pioneering, because our students learn how to learn, not necessarily that they need to know, okay, do you know what is this equation or do you know this definition? That's not what knowledge is all about. Knowledge is all about, because that knowledge is anyway available on internet these days. With a click of a button, you can get it. What is really important is how you think, and how you can solve the problems, right? And that problem solving ability is what you learn, and that what helps you to be a citizen of the 21st century or professional of the 21st century. There are so many other aspects of national education policy. Ashoka is ahead in each one of them. Basically, innovative and sustainable solution for the local problems is what the 21st century looks for, because it's no one particular solution fits the whole world. So people are easily looking for local solutions using the best of the global knowledge available. So what would be the future like? The future would be more for, flexibility and adaptation rather than rigidity and inflexibility. So that means you don't have to look for a specific job right away. Don't even think that, today you decide what job you'll take for 4 years. 4 years later, your job may not exist, or 4 years later or 5 years later, there will be a new job which will be so exciting that you want to leave everything and want to go to that job, right? So better to be open-minded, learn flexibility, learn certain skills which you can use anywhere, whichever the job you go to. And that's what the world is going to be like in future, right? So there's nothing like, I want to go to this particular job and join Infosys or TCS or Microsoft, right? You need to be open to any kind of interesting job that may come across you, because there are many new jobs will come up which may not have existed today. It's simply because the world has changed so much, and changing is too fast. So you need to have customized educational outcomes, right? So particularly in the context of sciences, and interdisciplinarity is going to be key. So what some of the skills that you really need to know, irrespective of whether you want to pursue, medical sciences or, physical sciences or material sciences or administration policies, some understanding of some skills related to data science, statistics, population biology, epidemiology, public health, sustainability, biodiversity and conservation, environmental law, and communications. So these ones, something you need to know, and that's how you can build a fantastic career in your future. Okay, I'll stop here. Thank you very much. Let's have some questions if you have. Anna, back to you.
Thank you so much, Professor. I think everything you said was on point. Like, as a STEM student at Ashoka, I could 100% relate to learning how to learn. And I think this is the best place to come to when you really want to learn how to learn and be flexible. And everything about changing majors is absolutely true. I myself know hundreds of students who've changed that. We have a lot of interesting questions that have come up. So one of the major questions that has come up, which even I get asked a lot, is about the difference between BSc and BTech programs and how Ashoka compares to the degree names and things like that, especially when it comes to STEM degrees.
Okay, so BSc, as you can know, Bachelor of Sciences, and BTech is Bachelor of Technology. And the science and technology are somewhat connected, but not necessarily the same. They are not actually the same. The sciences, basically, you'll get a fundamental understanding of the subject. In technology, you only learn the technology, the engineering part of it, right? Not necessarily that you need to know everything behind the technology. For example, if you want to, learn all about how a car functions, you don't need to know everything about aerodynamics. You don't need to know heat transfer. You don't need to know many things like friction and all those things, right? Forces like Newtonian mechanics. But you can still learn all about car mechanics. And you can actually even think of developing some new cars and everything, but you'll still be very limited to only that technology. You can't make a completely new, for example, you can't be a what do you call, who's the owner of this Tesla cars, the new one?
Elon Musk.
Yeah, right. He's a scientist. He's a fellow of Royal Society in London, right? He's a scientist. Because of the science that he uses, he can think differently. He can be more innovative. So as a BTech, you can only use the technology. It's like becoming a pilot, not necessarily designing a new aircraft.
Okay. Yeah, I think couldn't have answered that question better. I think that's what I'm going to tell people. You can become a pilot and not design something. We have a couple of research-related questions. So one of the questions that comes up is, what is the scope of pursuing research for undergraduate students as Ashoka? Are there any students currently assisting you in your field of research? And do they have the opportunity to carry out long-term research, like something like the capstone project or final year thesis and
Sure.
things like that?
Yeah, yeah. In fact, many undergraduate students have already working in the labs with our faculty. In fact, in biology, if I remember, at least 4 or 5 students have even publications from undergraduate program. That means when they apply for PhD, program anywhere in the world, they will go with their own publication. They will have an advantage over others. In fact, in computer science, also there are many students who have publications, undergraduate students, and I'm sure you know about it. And at the same time, if they were interested, what many students have done is they have carried on the similar kind of research throughout their 4 years in Ashoka. So it also gets into an advanced capstone project. This is a problem with the capstone project. If you want to conceive a new project in your 4th year, you'll only have limited time to complete, and so you don't actually make a full body of research. But if a preliminary work is already done, including literature survey and some amount of experimental or computational or theoretical work or mathematical work in the first 2-3 years, then in the 4th year actually can dedicate a substantial amount of time to take it to the next level, leading to publications. So that's precisely how we are designing the curriculum for Ashoka students to do research.
A follow-up question to that is, if these research projects only have to be in one field, or could they be from several different majors? So can someone combine biology and computer science?
Yeah, exactly. That's precisely what Ashoka wants to promote, the interdisciplinarity. Students can work with more than one faculty at the same time, right? For example, our computer science faculty are working with health and biology faculty on related to health or biodiversity, or on protein structure function, right? One can join such kind of programs and then apply interdisciplinary skills to address a scientific problem.
Yeah.
It can be across other disciplines too. It can be political science or economics, social science, anthropology, archaeology. In fact, Ashoka has just started a new interdisciplinary program in archaeology, where you can actually use DNA sequencing to identify the age of the time in which people lived in that area, and what was their background, who they are most related to. Are they more related to Middle East Asia people, or more related to Africa, or they more related to Far East? You can actually work on some of those aspects of archaeology too.
That's super interesting. I want to meet people who are majoring in that and have a conversation with them. And I think that answers a couple of other questions that we had about people are asking if they can do different combinations together. So like computer science or mathematics, or bio and chemistry together and things like that. So definitely that's possible, like Professor said.
But that's almost the standard so-called interdisciplinary.
Yeah.
They're really not new in interdisciplinary, because even the 30-40 years biology, chemistry, or computer science, mathematics is going on. But what you can do here in Ashoka is something like, for example, you can do biology major and English literature as minor.
Yeah.
Right? Or economics as minor. You can do physics as major and economics as minor. So these are some of the interesting stuff.
Yeah, one of my really close friends is doing physics as their major and philosophy as their minor. Yeah. So another question is, are there any requirements for applying to a science program at Ashoka? and do people need, like, what kind of background do they need to be able to apply for sciences?
So, Indian school system, if you look at the CBSE or ICSE or IB boards, up to 10th standard, you already have, decent exposure to sciences. That's good enough. Irrespective of what they have done in 11th and 12th, they can actually pursue any of the disciplines except physics. Currently, the physics, the only one which, because of the nature of the physics, that you need to have a little bit more mathematics background. So the physics requires that 11th and 12th you have some mathematics background. Otherwise, really there is no prerequisite. You can walk in and explore yourself, whichever the area that you think you are more interested, you can take it up.
Okay, so just to clarify, a commerce student who wants to explore physics and realizes I took the wrong stream, but they have math, can come to Ashoka and explore physics.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. A follow-up question was if people from who are studying in different universities can do a credit transfer from other universities and come to study at Ashoka.
So we have credit transfer only with certain universities because it has to be have certain equivalence had to be established of the courses. Right now we have collaborations with some of the international universities, and so we actually do credit transfer so that our students can go and do some studies elsewhere, get new exposure, new experiential learning in another part of the world. So that's possible, and within the country also it's possible. And now with the new education policy, anyway, all of us are going to implement a credit bank system. So, but only thing is, we want to establish the equivalence based on our standards of teaching. Particularly, the pedagogy is also important, not just the content of the course, because usually the credit transfer is traditionally based on the syllabus. But we also want to make sure that there is also emphasis on the pedagogy, where you do the determining the equivalence of the course. How much is the hands-on learning, how much is the self-learning, how much is actually taught by the faculty, and so forth.
Okay. There are some career and higher studies related questions. So someone asked what is the traditional career path for STEM majors at Ashoka? If you do pure sciences, what are your job opportunities and things like that after Ashoka, or even research opportunities?
Yeah. That's right. I mean, typically, it's a tendency of any academic place, other than the technology institutes like engineering colleges or IITs, there'll be more, sort of exposure to academic world. It's right. It's simply because, we are academicians and they see us as faculty, and typically that's what they get to know more. But what Ashoka, is providing a different kind of experience because of our entrepreneurship cell that we have on campus, and also people who work in many different domains and other disciplines are the ones who are connected to the society directly, right? Societal problem. For example, our economists, social science people, political science people are directly connected to the society, and because of which they also, have more familiarity of the problems of the society. So our Ashoka students can also get to know the problem for which they can apply knowledge, right? For example, if they may be a physicist or a chemist or a mathematician or computer science, if they know the problem, if they say, oh, I can provide this innovative solution to this problem because I have certain domain knowledge, either for agriculture. For example, a social science person may come with what is the impact of pesticide on the society, right? It's not about how much you are growing, it's about the cost of using the pesticides. Now, Ashoka faculty will have an opportunity to work on reducing the use of pesticides, right? So these are the kind of job opportunities one can take up, not just only academic. Those who are into academic, of course, easier path because we are all academic people. And very soon, from 2021, because the pandemic got delayed, we are setting up a new, industry orientation program, which is driven by the industry. Not typically money place, what they do is the academic faculty will talk to industry faculty and try to understand what industry needs are and try to provide that kind of a training. We want to reverse this. We want to bring the industry on our campus and they decide what the kind of training our students get. And that's what we are planning from next year.
That's super interesting. I am blown away by that. There are a couple of questions about studying abroad or like higher education also after doing them. So people are asking if they can go to med school in universities abroad after Ashoka, or if they can pursue higher education, and what kind of institutes do people get in after, like, from Ashoka?
So, med school, I'm particularly, only US has this program, right? After your four-year degree program, you can go to a med school, right? Many times it can be integrated, or it can be and you have to write an examination, then you go to a med school, right? An entrance examination. Whereas any other type of higher education, most common is master's, and next is PhD, right? So Ashoka students are already doing it. Almost, large number of our students after their degree in Ashoka, either 3-year degree or a 4-year degree, they are gone to very different parts of the world and pursuing either master's or PhD, right? Or master's and PhD together. And that's something which opens up very easily anyway.
Okay. Is there also any scope to become like teacher assistants and things like that at Ashoka?
Yes, you should tell about this, Hannah. You know, the 4th-year students typically can work as teaching assistants. And if you pursue masters in Ashoka or PhD in Ashoka, you can also become what is known teaching fellow. A little bit more involved teaching. As teaching assistant, you will be assisting from the periphery. As a teaching fellow, you will be teaching students directly through discussion session and so forth. So both are possible.
Yeah, a lot of third years are also can be like teaching assistant for some courses.
Depending
And
on,
yeah,
we will give that opportunity for students.
right. There are some specific course related questions, so more related to like biology. So there are people are asking if what is the scope at Ashoka if anyone wants to be a genetic scientist, and does Ashoka offer things like biotech and things like that?
Okay, so this is my subject. So it's my favorite topic too. So to understand biology, you need to know a bit of chemistry, because at the chemical level, at the molecular level, biology is all about chemistry. DNA replication, right? Or DNA to RNA, right? Or RT-PCR, that what everybody knows nowadays because of the COVID diagnostic test. It's basically a chemical reaction, right? So the chemistry you need to know a little bit. And to know biology particularly, you need to know 4 subjects. One is genetics, another is biochemistry, third is physiology, and fourth is evolution, right? Now, Ashoka teaches all of these things, very well. And we give a lot of importance for students to learn all of these things, right? After this, the biotechnology, bioengineering, or, the gene editing, all of these things come very easily because you know the fundamental concepts of the chemistry of the molecules. You also know the biology of the molecules. Then how to design something new, for example, a vaccine against coronavirus, or a drug against coronavirus, or some molecule which you can put it in the plant so that the photosynthesis increases. All of these things easy for you to learn because you have learned some of the basic concept, and those concepts should be really well understood to become a good genetic engineering. For example, most of our biotechnology industries in India are generally called similar to pharma industry. They do only generics. Someone else has developed the vaccine, someone else has developed a therapeutic protein, and we only produce in mass scale. We don't develop our own. It's simply because our training of Indian biology training is generally lacks the fundamental concepts. Otherwise, you cannot innovate. So people always think that innovation comes simply out of the blue. You just keep closing your eyes and an apple falls down and you suddenly innovate new laws of physics. But that doesn't happen. So you need to know the basic concept very well so that you can innovate in technology. The technology earlier developed by humanity, like for example, wheel was invented 6,000 years ago, or how the wheel was used, or how very different tools were used, like stone tools or metal tools. They're all by trial and error. Only when we had better knowledge, the physics or chemistry or biology of the system, then only we could innovate and come out with some interesting new tools. In fact, why 20th century had 1,000 times or 200,000 times more innovation than the previous 1 lakh years of human history, is simply because you had a better understanding of the basic knowledge of physics, chemistry, and biology. So you could make innovation in tool making. So similarly, if you want to make new drug, new vaccine, new biological, use environmental friendly agricultural, tools or products, you need to know the basic science behind this. So that's where we give maximum importance.
So I'm going to combine your favorite thing with my favorite thing and ask you the scope for mathematics and bio at Ashoka. So mathematical biosciences, how does that work? And what's the scope for that?
So, the head of the department of biology in Ashoka is a computational biologist. He is the one who actually started bioinformatics in India in 1980s, when no one knew what is actually biology, molecular biology means on those days. So the bioinformatics is basically the integration of computer science and biology, because you use the methods of computer science to look at the biological system. Because right now what's happening is the amount of data that we are generating or amount of data that's available, no one human being can actually look at all aspects of it and come out with an insightful understanding of it. For example, Darwin in 1980s, 1850s came out with this fantastic idea of evolution by synthesizing ideas coming from a variety of different observations. He had observation from plant breeders, animal breeders, earth science people, people who knew what our fossil records are like. He personal observation of Galapagos Islands. And he also had an understanding of economics, right? The famous economics theory of supply demand and all of these things, right? And he could synthesize, but everybody can't be Darwin. But still, and Darwin time, still the whole information that was available that he used were perhaps maybe from 10 books. But today, there's so much data available. The only way you can, put them into a, context with the help of computer science. And computer science is a branch of mathematics. Without a mathematical understanding of the system, you can't build a computational architecture and a software to analyze the data, right? AI, ML, all are mathematical, branches of mathematics, right? So in a way, mathematics and biology go hand in hand in Ashoka. We have courses called mathematical biology, computational biology, and also AI and ML in healthcare and so forth.
That's super interesting, because usually biology and mathematics is not something that people like. It's a divide. You have to choose between the two. But
unfortunately, that's how I trained myself. I had very poor, skills in mathematics. Even now, it is too late for me to learn mathematics.
I'm sure you're not that bad, Professor.
So I'm not. That's why my biology is more qualitative than quantitative. But if I had to do any quantitative biology, I had to sort of depend on others. That also helped. There are enough collaborators who can help me, using computer science or pure mathematics to help, right? But the future, we need to have some mathematics, skills to be a good biologist.
Yeah, you talked a lot about I think you're also working on climate change, and you also talked about flexibility and opportunities coming up. So a couple of people have questions about how science students, the STEM students from Ashoka, can help in social and economics, like sustainability and climate change, and solve problems of the future through these degrees.
Yeah, so there are three aspects to the problem, right? One is the cause of the problem. The cause of the problem is, burning the fuel and, the fossil fuel, and increasing the, the particle, particulate matter in the air, and then which basically leads to global warming, right? So understanding the dynamics of that, right? That you need physics, you need chemistry, you need, mathematics, all of these things to understand climate change. Then impact of climate change is not the same everywhere. In some places, it can be much colder than what it is. In some places, it can be much warmer than what it was earlier. And many places, you'll have, very, very erratic and eccentric weather conditions, extreme rain conditions or extreme drought, and then the sea, levels raising, and, small areas getting submerged. Even big cities like New York and Mumbai are all under threat, is simply because the sea, levels are raising. So the impact are different. Understanding the impact, you need some science for this. The third is the solution. While scientific solutions are possible based on variety of different types of solution you give, but implementation of the solution depends on what the people would understand, how people understand this. Making people to understand there is a problem of climate change, its impact, and what solutions are ideal, what is sustainable for long term. At the same time, developing a political will to implement such solutions, right? So Ashoka on one side, the former faculty in social science and political science, are actually working on those aspects of climate change and environmental problems. And the people in environmental science and in biology and in physics also, people are looking at climate change as a problem of how it caused and what causes, right? So this is how we are actually working together. And we have a Center for Climate Change and Sustainability. And it has, faculty from every department, including performing arts, right? English literature and performing arts. So in a way, we have, 20 plus disciplines, and this center has faculty from all disciplines. They are working together to develop, variety of different, communication skills. New type of media, output has to come out to communicate climate change problem to the people. Yeah, so these are a few examples. We can discuss that, more. Those who are interested, they can write to us and I can.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the most Ashoka things I've heard, having performing arts and biology and all of that in one department, trying to solve a futuristic problem. So I think we are beyond time a bit. So this is where we'll end for today. Thank you so much for this wonderful session, Professor. And I hope our audience enjoyed interacting with you as much as I did. So thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Anna. You did a very good job. You picked up all the interesting questions. Thank you.
Thank you. So our next session in the undergraduate webinar series is scheduled for the same time next week. This session is on performing arts at Ashoka, which will be conducted by Professor Justin McCarthy, who's the Director of Performing Arts and the HOD of the co-curricular activities at Ashoka. The registration link for this is provided in the chat box. I would also like to inform our audience that round 1 applications for the undergraduate program will open on October 14th. As someone from Ashoka, and this is not biased at all, I can definitely tell you, if you're a STEM student, to apply. You can visit our website, www.ashoka.edu.in, for complete details on the admissions process and timeline, or email us. If you have any further queries or would like to know more about Ashoka's unique interdisciplinary undergraduate program, you can write to us at apply@ashoka.edu.in or call us on the number provided on the screen. Thank you, and see you next Friday at 5 p.m.